Hi, everyone. I'm Tara Lon. Welcome to Time Out with Tinseltown Mom. I'm here today with top parenting expert, podcaster, author, international speaker, and Connected Parenting founder, Jennifer Kalari. Among her many titles, Jennifer is also a child and family therapist with offices in Toronto and San Diego. Today, we're going to talk about how to have meaningful conversations with our tweens and teens. Hi, Jennifer. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be back.
Before we get started, why don't you just give us a little bit more insight into who you are? I know I gave a little snippet.
Well, so I have a few things on the go. I mean, my joy and my love is seeing clients one-on-one and working with parents. So doing family therapy and parent coaching. I also work with kids too, which I adore. And the mission is really to support families and help them to have good connections with their kids and to understand that language and compassion and empathy is actually medicine. Like next to food and water, it's emotional nutrition. It's the greatest thing you can do for your kids. And it builds emotional resilience and it helps with emotional literacy and emotional organization. And it just deepens relationships. You know, connection is also a really strong antidote to addiction. There's just so many reasons to work on connection. And it's not always easy to know how, especially with tweens and teens. They don't make it easy.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
And then connected parenting, can you give a little insight into that? I know you have some programs for parents and things like that.
Yeah. So we have a number of services. There's about 11 of us, actually. We're all therapists and connected parenting coaches. So we work with families one-on-one and we work with kids one-on-one. So there's that sort of level of our service. And then I have online courses for parents. We've got our village, which is this amazing once a week place where parents get together with a connected parenting expert who actually gives them parenting advice. And it's a place to practice some of the core techniques, which we'll touch on today. And it's just a great community. And then there's our books, and we try to make it, have a multi-services available for families on your parenting journey, because parenting is not easy.
Right. So today, speaking of not easy, we're talking about having meaningful conversations with our tweens and teens.
Yeah.
So before we delve into that, I should say, just as a point of reference, sometimes it's harder to have meaningful conversations with some kids over others.
Yes.
So why don't we just start there first? Just like, who are those kids that it's, more difficult to have those conversations with?
Well, so for a lot of kids, some kids are just naturally more verbal, and it's more of a natural thing for them to just sort of vent and get everything out. And for other kids, they don't know how to do that. Either they feel vulnerable, or they get all jumbled and they don't know what to talk about next. Or sometimes it's us. Like if we get too involved and invested and nervous, then they're like, oh, well, I'm upset already. And now I'm upsetting my mom. That's just too much for me. So I'm not going to say anything. It takes a lot of kind of executive functioning and emotional organization to actually sort out what you're feeling. And often kids, especially tweens, feel it in their body. They know something's off, but they don't actually know what it is. And what we often do is we don't mean to, but as parents will often kind of investigate and interrogate. What's wrong? What's the matter? You don't look happy. What's going on? And they're like, I don't know. Or it just ends up being so intense they don't know. So that's part of it. And I think the other thing, because we're talking about tweens and teens, is there's something really interesting that's happening biologically with tweens and teenagers. So let me start there. Literally biologically built into the human brain is this instinct to not want to talk to your parents, to not want to listen to them. And the reason for that is nature actually wants you to go off right at a time where you're, biologically ready to have kids, and go off into another village and connect with other people. So you spread your biology around. It's literally built in. So often teenagers will feel angry with their parents or not want to listen, even though we're giving fabulous advice sometimes. But there's this thing that happens where it's just this, I'm not going to listen to you because you're my mom or you're my dad. They might listen to an uncle or an aunt or a grandparent or a neighbor or an older teen, but they're not going to listen to you. And so that's kind of there. So you're not only are you dealing with whether or not that it's easy for them to chat, you sometimes have that to deal with as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And sometimes just asking a simple question like, how was your day? That could trigger something.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's funny because I work with a lot of teenagers. This is especially true with girls. And they'll say to me, I love my mom. I love her. When I think about her, I love her. And then I hear her voice and I'm mad. She just right? I just feel mad, but I love her and I feel bad and I feel guilty and they don't quite understand what's happening. They
Yeah.
don't understand why they get so angry and why there's this natural kind of leave me alone or slam the door or what or eye rolling, which is so triggering for us as parents.
Yeah.
It drives me. So so we'll talk today about how to bypass some of that and how to have those easy conversations, even though you're dealing with all that.
Yeah. So why don't we just start with the basics then? So let's say there's some parents thinking, okay, I don't have a great connection with my kid and I want to start. Like
Mhm.
where do they start? Like just as a
So
starting point.
yeah, that's a really good question. So I would say the best place to start is to operate from a place of I want to understand versus I want to be understood. And right off the bat, there's a very big difference. And your teen or your tween, if they feel like you're giving them a, parenting advice or it's a parenting moment or, they're going to shut down. So you really want to approach them with this gentle, loving, open, I want to get you. I want to understand what you're going through. And then if you want advice or you want me to add something, I'm happy to, but I want to understand what you're going through. And that's such a that's all any of us ever want anyway, in any
Yeah.
conversation. We literally just want to be understood. And I think for a lot of us as parents, we think we're pretty good at this, but we're not so good at it. Right. So there's a few basic things, and this is probably a good time to introduce the calm technique. So the calm technique is sort of my take on a therapy technique called mirroring. And this is where you're really using your face and your body and the sound of your voice and your tone to really kind of get on the same emotional channel, almost like a radio station, right? Where you're just kind of tuning into where your child is at. When you're able to do that, some pretty amazing things happen. So when you're in a moment of deep connection where your child is really feeling like, oh, mom gets me, or dad is really like understanding me here, you're going to have a flow of oxytocin, opiates, and endorphins, which are really powerful hormones. Basically, oxytocin is a hormone and a neurotransmitter. And what that does is it blocks cortisol. It actually calms the brain down and it puts you in this kind of peaceful place where you're ready to work things out versus an adrenaline based response, which is where is she going with this? And I know what's going to happen. And she's going to tell me what I'm doing wrong and right. All of that. Right. So it really allows you to operate from a very different place. First of all, the other bonus is, when there's a lot of oxytocin flowing, it's also increasing the immune system. It helps with learning and building of brain and neuroplasticity. So there's all kinds of benefits. And the best part is you get the bounce back also. So when you have one of these deep conversations with anyone, by the way, you can think beyond your teen and your tween. You can think mother-in-law, nasty neighbor, coworker, like this literally works on anyone. It's kind of like a superpower. So that's sort of the basis. So what you're going to do is you're going to connect first. And that's where you're going to understand before you need to be understood. You're going to take your agenda. Oh my gosh, we got to fix this. Or what do you mean you don't like that teacher? Or what do you mean, like whatever it is, and you're going to put it aside. You get to bring it back, but for the moment, you're going to put it aside. You're going to put your phone down. You're going to use your face. You're going to use your shoulders. You're going to use anything in your body to demonstrate to that little person that you are present and you are available, and that you're going to operate from a place of love, not fear. The minute there's fear, is this going to go well? What's he going to tell me? Oh my God, I got to come up with a solution. Whenever you have that infused in the conversation, your kid is going to pick up on it, and that's immediately going to add a layer. So really try to focus on being present and just coming from a place of love. I love you. I want to understand. I just want to understand. Okay. So that's the C part. The next letter is A. So this is the affect matching. So this is where the look on your face needs to sort of match theirs. It can't be exact because that's weird, but it has to be like, if they're angry about something, you can't be like, right? That's giving them a different message. If they're, I don't know, let's say they're little and they say something really cute, like they're 5 and they say, oh, I thought Josh loved me, but it turns out he loves Kevin or something. And you're going to smile because that's cute. That's not a neurological match, right? So you really want to make sure that your faces match. And the reason for that is that's what triggers the mirror neuron cells in the brain. And that's the part of the brain that actually starts to release the oxytocin, the opiates, and the endorphins, the kind of comfort here and now, really warm chemicals. Oxytocin is actually known as the love drug. That's how powerful it is, right? So that's the A. This is also where you can also attach it to agenda, like what you really would like to get out of the conversation you're parking. Okay. The L part is the listening part. So this is where you can paraphrase, you can clarify, you can summarize, or you can wonder out loud, all with the affect that we talked about. And we'll go through some examples, and we can even role play if you want. Okay. And then when you pulled all that together, that's the M. You've had a mirroring moment. And when you get it, I'm not going to say get it right, but when you feel it happening, you literally feel it in your heart. There's a warmth. There's like it just feels, when you're getting it right. You know when you are. Mm-hmm. And what often happens in a close connected conversation is it kind of ebbs and flows. Like you're going to connect and get it right. And then you're going to blow it and your kid's like, no, that's not it. And you're like, whoa, I got that wrong. I blew that. Like, tell me, I didn't understand. I want to get it. And then you get back on track and then you lose it again and then you get back on track. So it's basically known as an empathic failure and empathic repair. And you have to be able to kind of just go with the flow. And it's a little bit of an art, but it is truly, if you can get this down, it is a superpower, and it will really help you so that your kids will tell you what's wrong instead of show you what's wrong. And as they get older, as teenagers, they're going to share things with you. You're going to know what's going on in their lives because they trust you.
So the idea is to start off calm, keep it going in a calm manner, and end it calm. That's the idea, like with the conversation. So
exactly. It's easy, and they won't make it easy, but that's really the kind of formula.
Yeah.
So would it be, so let's go through it like an example. So
they're getting in the car when they get picked up from school, because that's a common.
Do you feel like you could do a role play with me?
Sure. I used to be an actress, so yeah, I love role plays.
Okay, so you got so you're going to be your best obnoxious teenager.
Yes, exactly.
They're already thinking, oh, she's going to ask me 50,000 questions about my day. So let's do it the way it typically goes first. I am not going to use the technique. Okay, we're just going to be typical mom and dog. We'll see how it goes awry, and then we'll do using the technique, and you can feel the difference. Okay.
So I'll get in the car and I'm on my phone.
Well, it's nice to see you. How about putting your phone down and saying hi to me? Hello.
I just need to do one quick thing, Mom. I'm sorry. I just need to do this really quickly.
No, you realize I just drove 20 minutes and sat through traffic to pick you up, and you're ignoring me. Can't we just have a conversation? Just put the phone down.
Okay.
How was your day?
Fine.
What'd you do?
I mean, I went to class, Mom. It's the same thing every day. Nothing special.
I'm sorry. I just like knowing what happens in your day. I just like to know what's going on. Who'd you have lunch with?
The same people, Franny and Isabel.
I'm sensing like an attitude from you. Why do you have to talk to me like that? Like I'm annoying. I love you. I'm just trying to find out about, why can't we ever just have a conversation? You're always there. Now you're huffing. Now we have huffing. Oh, now we have
back on my phone, please. This is really important. I need to talk to Sandra about something.
Right. Okay. So
she's doing a TikTok video. I need to do this right now, please.
You got the teenager thing down. Okay. So that could probably go more awry than that. Like that could have like really escalated. So as I'm talking to you and you're the teenager, what was happening for you? What did that make you feel like you wanted to do?
I felt like you were like, I had an agenda. I have a schedule, and I felt like you were infringing upon that.
Yeah.
By asking me the same questions you always ask me every day.
Yeah, exactly. And then you're going to let me know by like, right. Which sometimes can be so triggering for us as moms, because we've been like looking after them. We've been making phone calls. We've been making appointments. We've been looking forward to seeing them. We do everything for them. And we're literally asking, as we're chauffeuring them, to have a small conversation. And even that's too much. Okay.
Right.
So the first thing I would suggest too, in this scenario, is as you're driving towards your child, don't expect your child to get in the car and go, Mom, I missed you. Say anything. Let's talk. I mean, some kids will do that from time to time, but they're going to get in the car. They're tired. They've been on all day. They've been dying to look at their phone. And as much as they love you, you are an ATM, you are a nurse, you are a driver, you are all of those things. And it's really not until they're much later where your teenager or your young adult will say, Mom, I don't know how you put up with that. You were so good to me. I loved you. But they just can't as teens and tweens. They're inner focused. They're self-centered at that age. It's all about them. It's all about their social life. So I would say partly adjust your expectations. I'm not saying get in, put a chauffeur's hat on and drive your kid and not say anything. I'm not saying that, but kind of lower your expectations a little bit, because then it won't be so fear driven, right? Mm-hmm. So now let's try this again. and we'll see if we can make this go a little differently. Okay.
Okay.
So get in the car. I'm going to say, hey, babe, how are you?
Doo-doo-doo.
You know what? I'm going to let you just be on your phone for a little bit. I'm sure you've been dying to look at it. I'm going to start driving, and maybe in a couple minutes we can
Oh,
talk.
okay. I just need to send this text really quickly.
Don't worry. Don't worry. Do what you have to do. I know you're like been busy all day. So we're going to assume a few minutes went by. Okay. And right there, I love what you just said in the role play, right? You just said, I'm just going to do a couple minutes. Already your tone had changed, right? So let's say you've changed, and I say, and I might say something like, okay, so like, looks like you finished texting. How's your day today? How was it?
Okay.
Kind of the same. Every day, sort of the same. Not that different. I ask you
Mhm.
that every day, but nothing really changes.
Right.
If you think about it, was there one thing that was cool today at all?
Um, I guess when Mr. Morris he sang during school assembly.
Oh, what was that like? Good singing, bad singing?
It was terrible, Mom, and everyone recorded it on their phone.
Oh, no, it was bad.
It was
Oh,
horrible.
like cringy bad.
It was so cringy.
We're embarrassed for him.
I didn't know what to do. I was just recording and I was so embarrassed for him. Yes.
That definitely sounds cringy. Did he think he was good?
I think he was trying to be funny and he wasn't, which made it even more cringy.
Yeah, he missed the mark. That's hard. That's hard to watch. Okay, so we'll just say, so how did that feel? How did that conversation go?
Am I me or am I a teen girl?
You're to you. I switched you. Yeah. You're just
Actually, that
yeah,
was cool because it did feel like I was connecting with you on something. So
yeah.
that was cool. Yes. I felt
And
that.
that's the flow. And so it's what's interesting is even though I've broken it down and I call it the calm technique, it shouldn't feel like a technique. Right?
Hmm.
It should feel very easy. It should have flow. It should feel like a conversation, right?
Right.
So, and what I was doing was I was just kind of matching your affect a little bit, and it was genuine. Like I'm thinking, oh my god, this poor teacher. Like you can feel what you're feeling, and
Hmm.
because it doesn't feel like you're pulling, right? You're going to get more out of your child. And even if that's it, even if it ends there and she goes back on her phone, she's going to be left with a little like, that felt different than it
Hmm.
normally feels. And what you'll notice is a few minutes later, they might come in the kitchen, they might start another conversation, or they might bump into you a little bit. Like you're going to see, they're going to want more. They're
Hmm.
going to want. So it's more about just kind of creating a magnetic moment in a way where they want more of that. And you'll want more of that because that actually feels lovely. Right. And we didn't talk about anything that significant, but I learned something. We
Right.
had a little moment, and then you build on that. It's kind of like a layer of paint that just gets thicker and thicker and thicker. This isn't going to happen in one conversation.
Right.
So that's kind of the technique. Now, people have heard of active listening or effective listening, and there's nothing wrong with that technique at all, but it is not mirroring. It's not the calm technique. That's where you say things like, how did that must have made you feel, or I understand, or so what you're doing is you're adding observational statements. And for a lot of kids, especially like sharp, bright kids, they'll realize right away you're using a technique. So I'll show you how that feels. So let's say you're telling me about this prince, the guy, the teacher who's singing, and I'm going to use active listening. So what did that feel like for you to see your teacher like that?
I was embarrassed for him. I was just so cringy, Mom. I really just wanted to go to class after that. It was so
I
stupid what he was
understand.
doing.
I understand. That must have felt really awkward for you. That must have felt really hard. So it's not bad what I said, but can you feel the difference?
Yeah. I'm imagining being a teen and maybe my teen friends aren't asking me questions like that, but maybe it's something I may have wanted to get out or you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah, I can
Yeah.
see how
You
that
say
builds a
things like, I
connection.
understand, you're going to get a no, you don't. You don't understand. You weren't there. Or, well, how did that make you feel? Or that must have made you feel terrible. There's an implication that you know how they're feeling, and teenagers don't. They don't like you to tell them how they're feeling. They would much rather have you open ended, just kind of asking questions. So just watch the observational statements. No, it sounds like, it must be, I understands. Like keep it the way we did it the first time, which is like, really? Really? What was that
Yeah.
like? Like you want to kind of keep it like that. Don't overdo it and get all weird.
Yeah.
Okay. Because like,
And then you
what
sound
book are
like
you?
a therapist. I
Yes,
understand. Tell me about your feelings. Tell me what that
right.
felt like.
You want to kind of keep it very real and very casual and very genuine,
Yes.
right? And even if, and this is easier than it sounds, right? This takes practice. So you want to be practicing this with everybody, the lady at Starbucks, like your siblings, everybody, because you get better and better at it and smoother as you do it. But even if your kid goes, "What are you doing? Why you sound weird? Why are you saying things that I have already said?" And here's your answer, because you know what, I realize I don't always listen to you. I talk at you more than I listen to you, or I'm always pulling stuff out of you. And I'm not great at it yet, but I'm trying.
Right.
And 90% of teenagers will go, okay. I'll be like, okay. There's
Yeah.
nothing to say to that except, wow, she's
Yeah.
trying.
So you
Right?
build on these calm techniques, and over time, the idea is that you'll start having more meaningful conversations and your kids will open up more. Now, let's say
Yes.
your kid gets in the car and you notice something arise. It's like something's clearly wrong
Yeah.
and they don't
Yeah.
want to tell you anything. They want to keep it to themselves. They're embarrassed or they have a fear that you're going to react a certain
Yeah.
way.
Or they're still processing it, maybe, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, this is a good one because our like mommy fear meter goes off. We go
Yeah.
right their life starts flashing before our eyes. What is
Mhm.
it? Oh my God, what's happening?
Right.
What's going to,
What
we panic.
happened? Did someone do something?
Who did something to you? So we don't get our own fear in check. And then, as we talked about before, a couple of things can happen. One, they're still processing their own emotions. They can't handle another layer, which is you, right?
Right.
Um, or they literally are so overwhelmed they can't even find the words. Like if we're really upset and someone says, "What's wrong?" In that moment, we have to distill everything we're thinking and sort it all out. And we don't know in that moment. We're just trying to not cry, right?
Yeah.
The best thing to do is check yourself first. So it's coming from a place of love, not fear. You want to give them the energy like, I trust you. I love you, whatever it is. I know that we'll get through this and you've got the skills. You're not saying this, but this is like your energy, right? And when you're ready, I'm here for you. So it would look something like, you look like you're going through something right now, and I don't want to embarrass you or draw attention to it. I want you to know that I'm here. I trust you. I'm here if you need me. I'm going to give you a minute because I know you're going through something. So actually step back before you step forward. So you're giving them that space, but you're also letting them know that you care. You're also letting them know that you have some faith in them. And you also are letting them know that you're available when they're ready. And most of the time, they will right away start sharing with you. It's funny. I have a funny story about this. My son, who's now 29, when he was about 14, we were on a cruise and we'd saved all this money to go on this cruise and we're all excited and it was a big deal. And he'd met a bunch of teenagers on the cruise and it was about 10 o'clock at night or something. And I was coming back to the cabin to get something. And the cabin is dark and the lights go on and he's lying there in bed. Okay. And I did nothing that I tell people to do. I didn't follow any of my own advice. I'm like, what's wrong? Why are you in the dark? What happened? Tell me. You can tell me, people pay to talk to me. Like I just lost it. It was just a disaster. And I could tell the more he did it, the more I was just overwhelming him. And then I stopped and I said, you know what? I am not following any of my own advice. Clearly you're upset and you're in the dark, on purpose to be alone and to think, and I'm invading your space. And I turned to put my hand on the doorknob. And the second I did that, he's like, well, Mom, I'll tell you what happened. Right. So as soon as I pulled away, forward he came. Right. And then, of course, he said the rest of the teens ditched me. They all said they were going to be at the hot tub. And then when I went there, they weren't there. And I'm doing, instead of going, oh, well, what do you mean? And I just mirrored, oh, that sucks. So they all promised you they'd be there, totally ditched you. And as I'm doing that, I could see his face change and he went, wait a second. There's another hot tub on the other side of the ship. And he got up and he ran. And of course, they were at the other hot tub, right? But that's a really good example. If you kind of freak out, you're going to either make it worse or you're not going to be an approachable, available. Nobody wants to talk to someone like that,
Yeah.
right? Who's, crazy firing of questions.
Right.
So it's having that to be grounded enough in your own stuff to take a second and give them the space. And then you apply the contact.
Yeah. Now, how much space should you give them? Because what if, the parent-child relationship is such where there's rare communication, especially of any depth. You give them the space, but let's say a day goes by and they don't come to you and share what's happening? Like, should you pry? Like, should you go back to the conversation?
Yeah, you should. I mean, you have to. If there's something going on, you are their parent. You are their. It's funny because I talk about parenting more like being a substitute frontal lobe, which is really what you are. Like the frontal lobe's job is to mitigate and organize and prioritize and take perspective and do all that stuff. And even though tweens and teens look like they're very capable and they are in lots of ways, they don't have that really sophisticated executive functioning yet, right? So there may be things and solutions to problems that you can figure out with your adult brain that they can't. So you do have to go back and check it. And I wouldn't necessarily wait a day. Sometimes you just have to give kids 20 minutes, an hour. It takes a little bit of time to come out of fight or flight. And then you can check on them and say, hey, I want to give you some space. I know you're going through something, but I have a responsibility. I love you. I want to make sure you're okay. You ready to talk yet? No. If they're not ready, come back again a couple of hours later. You can always, it sounds crazy, but you can also text. Sometimes texting is a fantastic way to talk to your teenagers because you don't have eye rolling and you don't have huffing and they don't have your emotions and your facial expressions to deal with. So you can text it and say, would it be easier to text? I want you to know that I'm here for you. You honestly, most of the time, if you do those things, they will come to you. And if you're able to use the calm technique when you do, you're going to keep the conversation going. If it's a situation where a kid won't tell you, and that does happen, there's really not a lot you can do. Like you don't want to start threatening them. And all you can really do is prove to them that you're loving and that you're available and you're not scared, like you can handle it. And then they'll tell you. The hardest thing about being the parent of a teen is you don't know everything that's going on in their lives. You're not even supposed to. I mean, you're supposed to know the big things, but there will be the odd situation where you may never find out what that is.
Yeah. Is there ever a time where it needs to escalate, maybe where the teen is just not talking to their parent about hardly anything and they don't even know their teen or tween because they have this limited conversation? Is there ever a time it needs to escalate to like a therapist?
Absolutely. The child having their own therapist or having a family therapist that can help you communicate with each other can be really helpful. A scenario that I often see in my practice is there'll be a teenager who's either not talking to one of the parents at all, literally not talking to them, or they are, but it's like, yeah, no, right? And so what I'll do is I'll have parents use the calm technique for small things, like little tiny ridiculous things, like your teenager opens the fridge and goes, oh, drank all the chocolate milk, instead of going, well, you did. And how about you buy it yourself next time? And I'm the one that does the growth. Instead of that, you just say, oh, I know, right? Like you want something to eat. You're thinking it's there and it's not, that sucks. And then walk out of the room. Don't stand there going, did you see that? Did you see that little thing? I just drop it. Like just do a little drop of that and then get out of the room, right? And build on those things little by little by little. I promise you, your teen will start coming back to you. They will start testing you out and telling you things, or they'll come and do a little bump or put a hand over your shoulder. And, those things are really important. And, what happens is we also get hurt because we're worrying about them and we're doing a lot for them. And really, you can't even make a sentence. Like it's too hard to even tell me how your day was. I go, right? And that can be really hurtful for us. And then that tension actually can add to the fact that there's this chasm between you. So I would say in little tiny ways. You can send them pictures when they're a baby. You can just go, oh my God, you know what I was remembering this morning? The time when you were 3 and blah, blah, blah. And then don't wait for them to say anything. Just drop these little things, and little by little, if you trust, it will rebuild. It will start to come back to you. And eventually they'll start telling you things. And when they do, they'll be like, oh my God, this is awesome. Look at us having, don't do that. Be cool and be casual. Because if you're too intense about it, then they'll go, well, she's going to expect that next time. And I'm not doing that again. What if right? You can sort of get in your own way. The other thing too, that I think happens is we get angry. Sometimes we get really hurt. So if our teenager kind of blows us off or doesn't, is kind of rude when we ask them how things are going, we're like, you know what? I hope you have a teenager one day and they do this to you and you know how it feels. Like, it's not going to work. It's not going to work really. Like you can just almost be really neutral and like, I love you and I would love nothing more than for you to feel like you can talk to me and I'm here if you need me. And that's it. And just walk out of the room. Don't be sarcastic. Don't make them feel guilty. Just walk out of the room. And most kids will come back. They'll come back. They might do it in a kind of a stealth way at first, but they'll come back, and you can build on that. You can,
Yeah.
and it's never too late. It's never too late.
Okay. And as we wind down the conversation, are there any other practical, proactive tips that you can give to parents that they can do throughout the day? Like those little calm techniques, like maybe at dinner they could do XYZ. Like, is there anything else that you can think of that might be helpful?
I think with teenagers in particular, like using the calm technique conversationally, like when they're just talking about a new video game that's coming out or what somebody did, like similar to the conversation we had about the teacher singing. Like, and it's not about agreeing, it's about getting, or it's about being able to look at it from their point of view and examine it. Trust that those little conversations are more powerful than you think. And I think texting, sending little emojis and sending pictures when they're a baby and reminding them when they're little. And some teenagers, you can even just, maybe it's not about talking, maybe it's making sure that you're hugging them or putting your hands on their cheeks and looking in their eyes and go, I don't care how old you are my baby. You will always, I'll stop, mom, and then walking away, right? The building on those moments, I think, is really important. I'll end with a very quick story, and this is one of my favorite things that has ever happened. I often do speaking engagements, and this was it was a group of teachers that I was talking to, and it was a 2-day workshop. And I was talking about this very thing, like sending baby pictures and putting your hands on your cheeks. And one of the women who was a teacher said, there's no way I'm doing that. My kid is a goth. My kid is going to puke on me. Like, that is not going to go well. And I have seen this work so many times that I said, look, how are things right now? Well, we're not talking and things have been bad for over a year. And I said, okay, so what do you have to lose? Just go home and try it. So she would normally come home and I don't know, she'd say, why haven't you done the dishwasher? And why do you have to swear when you're playing your video game? And can't you even say hello to me? Like, they'd have a whole thing and he'd, shut up, you're so mean to me. And they'd have a whole night. And this time she didn't do that. She came home and she said, you know what? You may be a goth, but you're the cutest goth in the whole wide world. And she started tickling him for a second. He just went with it. And they had this moment. And then they were like, okay, well, now what do I do? That's weird. And she didn't, it was pretty amazing that he even went with it at all. And then it got, shut down again. But she did notice that night was a much smoother night than usual and just a little less tension in the air. And this is a true story. She was walking past his room at about 11 o'clock at night. And keep in mind, they had really not talked. It had been a very tense, very distant relationship for a long time. And what does she hear? Mom, will you come tuck me in?
I love that.
Right? She goes in his room. She tucks him in. She said she didn't even want to breathe because she could not believe this was happening. She left the room. She closed his door. She slid down the wall and she burst into tears. Like, she never thought in a million years. So we talk about, doing these big things, but sometimes it's not big things.
Yeah.
It's a lot of little things.
Yeah, that can create a breakthrough. That's excellent. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for being here again. Now, where can people find you if they want to know more about you and the services that you provide?
So they can go to connectedparenting.com. Everything's on there. All of our services, bios on our team members, the books are available there. The links to the courses are there. The courses are really fun. We have 2 different types. We have one that they're all on demand because I know parents are busy. And you own them for life. Like, I don't like that courses run out. You're going to be a parent for life. You need the course for life. So there's one that just has the videos. And then there's one where I interact with everyone in a closed Facebook group. And then once a month we do coaching calls. And those are really fun because I get to see parents from all over the world, all saying the same things about their teens, their tweens, and their little kids. So that's another great resource. And then there's the village. So connectedparenting.com is where to find it.
Hey moms, thanks for listening today. If you enjoy this show, I would love to hear from you by way of an encouraging review. This podcast is meant to be a blessing to mothers, so I appreciate any support for this platform. Until next time.